Hi, this is Megan Jacks, Creative Memories Independent Advisor, and I am here today with a tour of the new 3-in-1 ribbon tag punch from Creative Memories. And in this video, I'm going to show you a few different ways to use it. We'll start off by showing you how to use it and the way it was designed to make those ribbon cuts on the ends of strips of paper. I am also going to show you how you can use it with a straight edge or a straight piece of paper to make I'll show you two different sizes to do for the straight edge border. And then of course, I am going to show you how to use it with the jumbo circle, and we will make a sunburst page mat that you'll be able to use in your projects. So let's get started. So we're going to start off this video talking about the basic function of the 3-in-1 tag punch. So basically, what is this punch designed to do at the very basic thing that it's meant to do? And it is meant to work with 3 different sizes of widths of paper. So 1 inch, 2 inch, and 2.5. And you can see those are listed right here on the top of the punch, and you can see the grooves here at the bottom as well. I will show you that you are not necessarily limited to those sizes. The widest you would be able to go is going to be that 2.5, but you can actually do any size up to 2.5 inches wide. But the punch is designed to help you with the 3 sizes that are listed. So the first thing we do is we will go ahead and obviously open up the punch. And I have learned with the tag punches that we've had that I actually prefer to work from the back side. I can go ahead and I have a 1-inch piece of paper here, and I can slide it in and I can punch. I can, go ahead and punch it without looking at the back. But I've noticed with the other ones, if I go ahead and flip it over, what I can do here is I can just verify that I'm nice and even within my punch. Now with the tag punch, the ribbon punch, it's not so, it doesn't seem to be as crucial, or there's not as much wiggle room. There's not as much design. We basically have a straight line, right? We're just making a wedge. With those tag punches, we have some scallops and bumps and things like that if it gets off center a little bit, it can make a big difference. But here, I'm just used to working from the back side, so that's where I like to go. I just hold my paper in, double check that everything looks to be nice and even. I could back it away, especially on this 1 inch. If I wanted to back it away, so I'm not having as much waste to my paper, I could do so. But you can always just slide it all the way up. That can help with keeping things nice and aligned. And then you would just punch. A great bonus is you get these cute little tags, or flip it upside down and you have an adorable little house. And you can see there, I've got a nice ribbon cut to that end of that piece of paper. And then it just proceeds on. So here's the 2-inch, it slides in, goes in there nice and even, can punch. Again, I have a lovely little flag to put at the top of or work into my layout, but there is the cut. And then here's the 2.5. The 2.5 width is the widest you'll be able to do. Really anything over 2.5 inches wide in terms of getting that ribbon cut is not going to be as easy, because you're going to end up with straight sides. You might want something like that. That might be, something to experiment with, going with a wider piece of paper. But the 2.5 is going to be the widest. Now, what do you do if you want to use a piece of paper that's not 1 inch, 2 inch, or 2.5 inches? I've got one here that is 1.25 inches. This is the nice thing about just being used to working from the back side. I can go ahead and slide this in. I'm not going to worry about, it's not going to be easy to center using any of these reference points here. So I am just sliding it in, and I'm going to wait till I get it all the way in here, and then I'm going to start working to center it. Now 1.25 inches works really well because you can see these metal lines from the way the metal is molded, and they actually, for that 1.25 inches, just line up perfectly. You can see it's all nice and even. I could go ahead and punch. But that's kind of the big thing to do when you're working with a size that is not one of the standard size they list here. So if you're going to go 1/2 inch, you're going to 1/4 inch even, you can go all, and then up to that 2.5. Is just work from the back side, feed it in, and then center it here. You could, if you wanted to, depending on the size of the paper and how comfortable you are with dividing your papers in half, you could come in and you could do a fold. You could do a quick fold. You could use your zero center ruler. You could mark the middle. Use the zero center ruler to mark the middle. I could just come in here and I've just kind of evenly spaced it between the lines there to get that center point. And then I would just feed it back in. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and find the center point here along the back side, mark it here, and have all those visual references to chopping it right down the middle. So play with it a little bit, try some different size strips. Great thing to practice with your scraps so you can get those different width of the ribbon cuts and all of the cute, adorable little pieces that come out from when you punch. So that will be something fun to try. Experiment with the different sizes, the different widths, and just tuck it in there and go ahead and give everything a punch. Next up in our tour of the ribbon tag punch from Creative Memories, we're going to talk about how to use this punch with a straight edge of a piece of paper. So to do this, you're going to need a ruler. I've got my T ruler here just because you'll see as I'm using it how it just makes it a little more slick to make the measurements that we're going to do. I have a pencil and I have a piece of just some white cardstock here. It is that thicker cardstock. It's going to be a little bit trickier to feed through the punch itself just because when you look at this, we're having to overcome this ridge that they've built in, but it is worth it to do this. I'm going to show you two different ways, but you'll hopefully get an idea of ways that you can maybe do it, other spacings and things like that you can try out. So like I said, I've got a white piece of paper here and we're going to start, I'm going to come here to the bottom. So I'm going to move my cutting mat up. I'm lining up my paper here. And I'm going to make some pencil lines. And so if you're working on a actual piece of paper that you're a designer paper or whatnot, you are working from the back side. We're going to be putting our pencil lines on the back side of the paper. And we're going to start off. The first one that we're going to do is we're going to do with a spacing of, it's going to be a 2-inch spacing. And the reason I chose that 2-inch spacing is because we can make a total of, it runs into be like 6 cuts because we have a 12-inch length of paper. So we'll have 2-inch spacing for those punches. The 2.5-inch spacing gets a little bit trickier. And I didn't feel like doing that complicated level of math. So we're sticking with the 2-inch and then I am going to show you a 1-inch spacing. So to start off with a 2-inch spacing, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write some numbers on here so you guys can have those as a reference. And so we are going to be marking our lines at 1 inch, 3 inch, 5, 7, you're seeing the pattern here, all the odds, 9, and 11. All right, so this is to do the 2-inch spacing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in with my ruler, my T-square, I'm lining it up at 1 inch, I'm going to draw a line. Come over to 3, I'm going to draw another line. You can see this T ruler is just real slick to slide right along the bottom. You don't have to, I'm drawing my lines probably way more generous in terms of height than I would really need to. Since we've got a flat edge, we don't need to worry about coming out the back side of the punch. We've got a straight edge. It's going to keep us nice and flush and even at the top. We just need to make sure we can see these lines through the punch itself. Then what I'm going to do is I will open up my punch. I'm going to flip it over. So I'm working with the back side again. And I'm going to be wanting to line up that line that I just drew with the center of this punch. So I have to flip my paper around now at this point. And my first punch is going to be at the 11-inch mark. But I'm lining that paper up. That's my goal there. So line it up. I'm staying flush along the top edge. And I'm going to go ahead and punch. And then I'm going to come over and slide over and I'm going to punch at the next one. I'm lining it up. Now, what you're going to see here is I've got a gap there in paper. That's okay. That is fine. You want that gap. 9 inches. I'm flush at the top. I've got my line down the middle and I punch and I just keep working my way along. And what I'm going to end up with is a nice I don't know if we can technically call it, like, it's a big zigzag edge to the border. And you would come in here as such. So there we go. You can see here that nice jagged bottom that I have. All right. So now, what do I do when I want to have it, if I don't want to have the 2-inch spacing? What if I want to have a little bit narrower spacing? All right, let's go ahead and show you that one. Remember the top one here, we did the odds. We were doing a 2-inch spacing. This time we're going to do a 1-inch spacing. So we will start here at the, we're going to start and mark it at 1/2 inch. Our first line will be at 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to come in every inch. So 1.5 inches, 2.5 inches, and so forth, all the way down. So let me go ahead and mark those real quick. Again, my T-square is going to make this super quick. Just making sure my paper stays lined up. And this time I'm going to have 12 lines. I'll have 12 total punches. This design or this technique does use more of the paper. We're going to actually be chopping off quite a bit of the bottom edge. So if you're in the mood to save paper, this technique may not please your frugal little paper loving heart. You do end up with a lot of the edge that you'll trim off. It's just the way the punch is set up. So there we have the 12 lines. So now we're going to repeat the same thing that we did before. We were punching on every single line. Feed it in and go ahead and punch. And yes, I am. You are probably saying, wait, you're going to cut off this edge over here, that line. Yep, that's okay. Don't worry. We'll still have enough to be able to see it and to punch. But you can see how much I'm punching off. I am chopping off quite a bit of that paper. But the technique is really neat. It is pretty cool to see once it's all done. Just keep charging along. It seems to work well if I pull it over with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm punching with my right. I'm pulling the paper with my left. Just make sure you stay flush along the top edge. Couple more. All right, so you can see I've got just a couple more to go here. This last one. And there you can see at the bottom, I've got that nice, the fun edge. But I mean, in reality, I chopped off, I was cutting off quite a bit. Probably cut off almost 3/4 of an inch at the end of that paper. So that is something just to keep in mind, but I do like that edge. Now, if we wanted a quick thing to note here, if you wanted to be able to layer a second that would be offset from this, I showed you how to get it so that you have the even sides here and you have the downward angle. So what if we wanted to have it where we have the first angle is right in here? Well, we're going to go ahead and do the same measurement. So I'm going to start with the 1-inch side since we just did that. And we're actually going to go ahead and measure at every, so the first cut, the cut we'll do it 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these lines. And I may not punch every single one, just in the interest of time. Because a lot of this you can kind of get an understanding of. I'll mark them all just in case I want to keep punching along. So I'm going to come in here, and I've got this, I'm working from the wrong side. I'm going to have a hard time pulling this. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to start at the edge. All right. I'm going to start at the edge and punch. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to punch. The key there is you have to start at the edge. You have to start that edge. You have to cut that half piece off. And then you continue to punch along those marks. All right. So that's what you got to do. You got to make that first punch is halfway off. And you can see as my side's coming out here of what that looks like. Right? So here, you can see as compared to this, I start off with a downward slope. On this one, I start with a upward slope. So if I were to, we'll flip this over and hopefully you can see, I can layer these if I wanted to. All right. So it's hard to tell because I've got white on white. I do that just so you can see pencil lines, but then of course it's hard to see any design patterns. The flip side thing to here is I could do it, you know, layer them together a little bit. That might be an option to do. It's the same technique on the other side. So when we use that 2-inch spacing, I could do the same here. And I would be able to start it off, mark every 2 inches. Use my T-square. Don't want to get lazy here. Go ahead and mark it. Take the time. Mark it straight. But that first punch is going to be halfway off the page. And then I will get into those in-betweens. So I'm going to start off with halfway off the page. You can tell that half mark. There I'm lined up and punch. And then I keep moving on along. So it's definitely something neat to do with the punches here for the straight edge. The thinner paper will be easier to work inside the punch itself. Just the way the punch is set up, those guides that help you line up those 1-inch, 2-inch, and 2.5-inch points. It can be a challenge. When you get all the way to the end here, this would also apply to the 1-inch that I showed you just a second ago. You're going to have that last half to also punch. So halfway off the page. Line it up as best you can. Give it a punch. And there you can see I've got, clear that out. And you can kind of see how those are offset from each other. And they would layer really nice if you needed to layer. All right. So yeah, like I said, it's hard to see. But that is how you would use the ribbon tag maker with a straight edge. Next up, we're going to be using the ribbon tag punch with the jumbo circle to create I guess you consider this maybe like a big starburst or a sunburst shape. This is a nice big size that you can do as part of a page mat. You can also punch it with 2 different colors, twist them ever so slightly off from each other, and you'd be able to come up with a lovely sun page mat that will work great for one of your summertime layouts. So I'm going to show you how we do this. You'll need your jumbo circle, your cutting mat, and you're also, of course, going to need the ribbon tag punch. I am using a piece of white cardstock here. The technique that I'm going to show you, you would use if you're wanting to do the sun, like I just showed you, you would use on 2 different pieces of color of cardstock. I am using white here so that you can see my lines as I make them. And I'm lining it up here on my 13 by 13 mat. I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up here. And I'm going to be using the blue blade in the outside track. So I'm going to go around here with my blue blade. Make sure everything released nicely. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be marking at 45-degree angle. So let's turn right on here. We're going to mark at 45. I'll just put this off to the side. 45 degrees is what we're going to want to mark. So you can use your template here to help you mark it. Make sure you've watched one of my videos. It tells you how to mark your jumbo template to help you with those marking the degrees. But since we're doing the 45s, I'm just going to go ahead and use my trimming mat. I am double checking here to make sure that I'm centered. checking my 6-inch marks here, and I look pretty good. So now I'm going to use a ruler and a pencil here. And I'm working on the back side of whatever you're wanting to do. You're going to work on the back side of it because you're going to make lines all the way across. And I'll tell you why we're going to do that here in a minute. It just helps with alignment is the biggest thing to know. So we're going to go ahead and go all the way across at the 45. So we'll do the 6-inch marks a halfway on each side. And then we'll go corner to corner. We'll do corner to corner, and then we'll have all the marks that we need made. So there we go. We have all the marks that we need to make. You can see I've got those 45-degree angle marks. Now we're going to be using a similar technique that we use with the Border Maker cartridges, where we're going to punch at each one of the lines, and then we'll come back through and we'll punch in between. I played around with the measurements, and this is just the one that works the best. So I've got my ribbon tag maker. I'm going to flip it over because I want to be able to see my marks here. I also want to have a good reference here at the bottom of what is halfway. And you can use a pen or a Sharpie to mark that. There is a indentation. It's hard to see there. There is a circular indentation here that I've just kind of been using to keep my line when it comes out the bottom. And I have to feed my cardstock in. Now, I'm using this is a white insert paper from the Top Loading Pages. It is a pretty thick cardstock. The thicker cardstock takes a little more effort to feed into the tag punch because of the way it's designed. But you can see there how I've got that straight line coming right down here to the point, and then it's going to continue out. And I'm going to make sure here at the bottom where it comes out, my line comes out, that I want it to be even with the center. So I'm using that circle as kind of my reference point for the halfway. You can also double check here at the top that you're even on both sides, that the curve is even. And then I'm going to go ahead and punch. And you're just going to continue around to each one of these lines and punch. So you're going to get kind of a funky shape when you first do these punches. And honestly, the funky shape that you end up with, you could have it be, that could be a page mat. If you're just looking for something a little bit different, to do something a little different on your pages that you haven't done before, I'll show you what that looks like when we get it halfway done. It takes a little bit of time. You're going to make a total of 16 punches, I think it is. Do your best to line things up. Make sure they're even. That's what gives you the nice, consistent results all the way around. The angle marks are what allow us to space things evenly, but you've got to take that time when you're actually making the punch to line them up. Look for those points. They're going to help make everything centered. All right, so there's the initial shape that we come up with. So like I said, that's kind of fun, just something a little bit different. It's got actually a little bit of, I think it would be more of like, almost like a pentagon shape in there. If you could imagine if we were to complete this all the way around, or excuse me, a hexagon, the 6 sides. This angle here is not 45-degree angle. I'm not 100% sure. It might be closer to maybe the 60-degree. I would need to measure that. But you can kind of get an idea of how that works. Now what we're going to do is flip this back over. I'm still working on the back side. And I'm going to punch in between. I'm going to feed this back in. It takes a little bit of effort. Like I said, I'm working with some thick cardstock. If you use designer paper or a shimmer cardstock, it's a little thinner, feeds in a little bit easier. And here, what I'm doing is I'm making sure I'm even at the top. And I'm also checking here at the bottom. I've got 2 lines coming down. You can see the 2 lines. So when I'm looking straight down on this, I can check to see, are they kind of even? I've got a little bit, just the manufacturing details here I can see, am I even on there? And I look pretty good. So I'm just going to keep working all the way around. You'll have 12 more, or excuse me, 8 more punches on this side. Like I said, I think I'm pretty certain it's a total of 16 punches. Practice for sure on a piece of extra cardstock. Use the cover sheets from the paper packs. Those are always good to use. You'll have to finagle it a little bit. Like I said, that cardstock is a little bit hard to feed in here. It's worth it though. A couple more here and I'll be all done. And I'll have my starburst, my sunburst page mat made with the ribbon tag punch. So there you go. There you can see it. Now, when it came time to do the sun, I did the punching all the same with both. This is Buttercup and this is Orange Shimmer. I just want a little bit of sparkle in that orange color. So I used the Buttercup and the Orange Shimmer, and I punched exactly just how we did with the white. I punched them both the same. Now the yellow, the Buttercup, stays exactly as it is. The Orange Shimmer, however, I cut out the back of, and you can see here, I was kind of playing with some doodling to see whether I wanted to add some doodling details. I do that sometimes on the back side, just kind of see what I think. But what you would want to do is, I found it easier to punch it as a whole sheet. But my orange, what I did is I was able to go ahead and I cut out the center and I cut 2 rings. So I cut first with the blue blade on the inside track. And then I came in and I cut with the green blade, and then I cut with the red blade. So I ended up with the big circle, a small thin ring, and then the slightly bigger ring. So I could come in here like this if I wanted to. I could layer in that extra orange if I wanted to tone down the yellow. I could do that. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to use this sunburst page mat yet. I just wanted to put it together as an idea as I was working on this. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm all over sunshine right now. I cannot wait to see more of it as we get further into spring and summer. So what you do though is after you make your sunburst, to cut those rings out, once again, come back here to the back side. You've got those lines all in place, and this is going to help you reestablish center for your jumbo circle. So what I can do is I can line this back up. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on my cutting mat. Got my lines. Those will help me line up my sunburst on my cutting mat. And then I can use those same points of reference. So I've got my my reference points here. So I've got my 0, my 45, my 90, and my 180 and my 270 over here. And I'm just going to take the time to line up those dots with my pencil lines. And then I can use my cutting blades. Like I said, the first one you're going to have to do is going to be blue. And I'm going to go on the inside track, and I'm cutting out the big, kind of that big circle out of the middle. So I'll start with blue, get it positioned in here, and go all the way around. So I've cut out that middle piece. Now, depending on the size of the rings you want, you would then follow with the green to get a real thin ring. And then you could follow with the red to get a second thin ring. I'm going to go ahead and just do a thicker ring here. So I'm going to use the red. I'm not going to bother with doing the green. A little bit for time. Go ahead here and lift that out. So now what I've got here is, you can see I've got my starburst. Now it's just a ring, and you can see that's actually pretty neat. Imagine that in the yellow color or a sunny color, and you can put this on. I just have a piece of sun paper, and you can imagine if that was, maybe an orange, it would look really fantastic just all by itself. You could bring in that mat that we cut out, and you can see we have a nice, even just a nice start of the page there, even with the white. Looks fantastic. Lots of things we can do with this. Coming back here to the previous one. It doesn't look so great on that yellow paper. but I do have some water paper. This was from one of the summer, the packs that came out last summer. You can see how that looks. Pops right off the page with that blue water in the background. So I hope you have a chance to give it a try. It's a lot of fun to do. Like I said, cardstock is a little bit tough to feed in there, but just keep working with it, practice. Make those lines on the back. That's going to be your big guide to make sure you get everything nice and even. So I cannot wait to see what you guys create with the sunburst page mat. Well, that's a wrap for this video touring the new 3-in-1 ribbon tag punch from Creative Memories. I showed you 3 different ways to use your new punch, and I hope you have a chance to try some of these techniques. I look forward to seeing what you create with them. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.